The Wizard of Oz is one of the most beloved films of all time, but behind the magic, its production was riddled with injuries, toxic chemicals, and ruthless studio demands. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal the dark truth about Hollywood's most dangerous classic. Filming began in 1938, but safety was not a priority in Hollywood at the time. Studio executives demanded absolute perfection, even if it meant harming actors in the process. Hollywood magic has its risks, and no one knew that better than Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West herself. According to Hamilton, months after filming, people told her she looked a little green. That's because her skin had absorbed some of the green makeup and stained her skin for months, even after filming ended. In addition, Hamilton endured one of the worst accidents on set. During her fiery exit from Munchkinland, the stunt was initially successful. But directors wanted multiple takes, and on the fourth attempt, a trapdoor malfunctioned. She was supposed to descend while a fire rose up, but the flash burst too early, and Hamilton suddenly found herself engulfed in flames. She suffered third-degree burns on her hand and second-degree burns on her face. To make matters worse, her green makeup contained toxic copper which began seeping into her burns, making her injuries even more severe. And to remove the makeup, they had to use alcohol, which made the process even more painful. She had to recover for 6 weeks before returning. But by that time, Hamilton had informed the studio that she would not be doing any more scenes where fire was involved. So MGM used Betty Danko as Hamilton's stunt double to perform dangerous stunts, including scenes involving fire and smoke effects. She stood in for Hamilton during the infamous fireball segment while standing on a rooftop. Ironically, Danko suffered severe burns during the filming of the skywriting scene. This was where the Wicked Witch writes, "Surrender Dorothy in the sky," while flying on her broomstick. Danko was strapped to a rig, designed to make her broomstick smoke. But on the third take, a pipe attached to the broomstick exploded. She suffered serious internal injuries that landed her in the hospital for weeks. And since she was riding the broom when it exploded, she also suffered major pelvic damage and had to undergo a hysterectomy. In addition, her legs were permanently scarred from the accident. So with Hamilton and Danko both injured, the studio brought in a third stuntwoman to finish the scene. Incidentally, Danko was paid an extra $35 for that stunt. However, there is no clear record of MGM covering her medical expenses. Hollywood stunt performers at the time had little to no protections, and injuries were often dismissed as part of the job. But despite her horrible experience, Danko continued working in Hollywood. Another serious injury involved the Tin Man. Buddy Ebsen, the original Tin Man, faced a horrifying medical crisis. His aluminum-based makeup was a fine powder that he inhaled while breathing, poisoning his lungs. After just over a week of filming, he was rushed to the hospital in excruciating pain. But MGM executives reportedly kept calling and demanding that Ebsen return to set. When the hospital refused to release him, the studio hired Jack Haley. By that time, they had redesigned the costume and replaced the aluminum powder with aluminum paste, which was considered safer. However, Haley still suffered eye infections from the makeup, forcing production to be put on hold again. As for Ebsen, it was said that studio executives didn't even visit him. He was simply written out and replaced. He would have breathing problems for the remainder of his life, which he blamed on that damned movie. At just 16, Judy Garland slipped into the ruby slippers as Dorothy. Though she stood only 4 feet 11 inches tall, she towered over the Munchkins and loomed even larger on screen. But behind the curtain, she endured relentless pressure and cruelty from MGM executives. Studio head Louis B. Mayer placed Judy on an extreme diet: chicken soup, black coffee, and cigarettes, enforced with appetite-suppressing pills. It was said that studio staff even yanked full plates of food from her at the commissary. To counter any bad publicity, MGM conveniently started releasing what clearly looked like staged photos of Judy eating real food. Even her mom got into the act. To control her energy during long filming days, she was routinely given stimulants in the morning and sleeping pills at night, a cycle that began years earlier, sanctioned by her own mother. Judy would later reveal that her mother started feeding her pills by the age of 10, prioritizing her career over her well-being. She would go on to call her mother the real Wicked Witch of the West. Behind the scenes, executives at MGM were reportedly calling her a fat little pig with pigtails and forced her to wear a tight corset and have her chest taped down to appear younger and slimmer. These humiliations planted the seeds of Garland's lifelong battles with addiction, body image, and mental health. Despite all the abuse, Judy often maintained a lighthearted, youthful spirit on set. During the scene where Dorothy meets the Cowardly Lion, she had trouble keeping a straight face, frequently giggling at Burt Lahr's comedic performance. Director Victor Fleming, however, was not amused. Frustrated by the repeated takes, he pulled Judy aside and firmly told her, "Now, darling, this is serious." In an extreme move, he reportedly slapped her and said, quote, "Now go in there and work." But as you can clearly see in the final cut, she still couldn't contain herself. Either Fleming didn't notice or he simply gave up. And adding insult to injury, Judy was reportedly paid less than her co-stars, despite being the lead character. And apparently, the movie set itself was a health hazard. The snow in the famous poppy field scene wasn't fake. It was pure asbestos fibers, a material now known to cause lung disease and cancer. At the time, Hollywood regularly used asbestos for snowfall effects, unknowingly exposing actors to deadly chemicals. So these actors were literally covered in asbestos during this scene. Even the flying monkeys weren't spared from the hazardous conditions. The actors were suspended by piano wires, which allowed them to appear as if they were soaring through the sky. But the equipment was unreliable, and multiple actors were allegedly injured when they fell due to faulty wires. Maybe that explains why so many are seen here running away instead of flying. At least Judy Garland didn't have to worry about falling during this scene in the haunted forest. That's because it was actually her stunt double Bobby Cochet who was being lifted by the flying monkeys. Over the years, rumors spread that a Munchkin actor had taken their own life on set, and the footage was accidentally left in the movie. The scene in question occurs when Dorothy, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Man walk down the yellow brick road. In the background, some viewers claim to see a small figure hanging from a tree, leading to rumors that it was one of the Munchkin actors. But this is completely false. The Munchkin actors were not even present during the filming of this scene. Their sequences were shot later, meaning no Munchkin could have been involved in the alleged incident. The dark shape seen in the background of the yellow brick road scene was actually a large bird, likely a crane, brought onto the set for realism. The myth gained traction in the 1990s when low-quality VHS copies made the blurry background more ambiguous, fueling speculation. But in remastered editions, the truth is clear. No such tragedy occurred. And do you really think the three actors would have been happily dancing toward such a tragic event, as if nothing happened? From toxic makeup to brutal injuries, the set of The Wizard of Oz was a dangerous place. Despite the harsh working conditions, it became one of the most iconic films in history. However, its behind-the-scenes dangers serve as a reminder of Hollywood's reckless past. Today, stricter safety regulations protect actors. But the scarred legacy of Oz lives on as one of the most hazardous productions ever filmed. It's shocking to think how much risk went into creating such a beloved classic. Did you know The Wizard of Oz had this many dangerous moments? Drop a comment below if you think Hollywood went too far. And don't forget to subscribe for more.